Hey guys, me again. Just wanted to send off this final video for you guys as you guys get ready. I know the semester is just about over. You guys are loaded up with a lot of different tasks. So, what I wanted to do is kind of wrap up the whole course with this final section. Normally, I have some assignments connected to it. I'm not going to necessarily do most of those things. What I want to do is twofold. Let's stick with the first one. Um, Sent off some material a couple weeks ago. Haven't heard back from you guys on that. I think there was a couple questions in there, like reading The Ballad or the Bullet by Malcolm X. Haven't received that. Have gotten your presentations. Great jobs, guys. You guys are both killing it, by the way, just so you know, for your coursework. But just curious, could you let me know if you did indeed send it, and if so, to what address? Maybe I'm just getting the wrong one. So take a look at my email from a couple weeks ago. Make sure that material gets in before the course is out. What I did here with the second part of what I want to bring up is I kind of fast tracked really everything from Malcolm X to the current time. And how I want you to kind of frame this course is an evolving issue because just because the course ends at a certain point in terms of looking at issues of racism and civil rights and affirmative action, how does our faith play into all of that? It's not like we've arrived at the solution. It's more like this is where we find ourselves today. Here's the good things of where we've come from, but here are also the challenges we see before us as those issues evolve. So, here are the different things I want us to look at. You see all the sections presented in your email, the few videos. All together, if you watch all those videos, you're looking at about an hour. Okay, so those are all the videos together. So that's approximately what one class would be like. Actually, less than that. Very doable. Primarily, I want you to look at those things. It's going to look at the following topics. One, it's going to look at Martin Luther King Jr.'s. Oh, there's that little bubble. It's going to look at Martin Luther King Jr.'s final days. It's going to look at his assassination. And it's going to look at what sort of came out of that. One of the videos will be an announcement of his being assassinated by RFK, who was JFK, John Kennedy, one of the most famous presidents in the United States, the youngest president in the United States history. It's going to be his brother campaigning for president, and he'll announce it. And many people think he diffused a potential riot in Indianapolis because of the way he handled that. So you can look at that. You'll also see kind of live interviews of his assassination. Very sad. You also see a statement of what his health was like. You'll find that the weight of the civil rights movement was heavy on him. Terrible, terrible physical conditions he was in. Also, some tough rumors about his potential infidelities near the end of his life. Now, I'm not including that in this section because it goes into too much of a rabbit trail. But one of those things that we as Christian leaders need to be very pertinent of when we look at certain lives. Ravi Zacharias comes to mind in the Christian world, but it's like the ends just don't justify the means. In other words, just because we're important and we serve a huge role, and it might be taxing, to keep saying yes to tasks and then being seen as very important and then self-medicating through bad habits and pleasures and just the deterioration of the self, it's not worth it, and it's not good, and it's not right. So just a little side note. From there, we'll go to this movement called the Black Panthers. I'm sure you've heard of it before. It'll look at the character of Huey Newton and a bit of his story. But the Black Panthers kind of took a step further in some of how Malcolm X viewed civil rights. If MLK believed in nonviolent resistance, and Malcolm X believed that no, you need to stand up for yourself, violence may be necessary. What the Black Panthers will do is they'll actually activate that violence. They will walk around in almost like a little militia in Oakland, where they were founded, and start up chapters throughout the United States, and they'll have armed themselves with guns. And some deaths will toll. They did a lot of community services. Also started to adopt a form of communist mentality, and in the 1970s, the communist scare was real. That people would engage in practices that would have any influence in the United States in any kind of section. So, government's going to want to clamp down on that big time. It's against what the Vietnam War was about and against the Cold War with the USSR and China. So, all that history can be found, but just a brief little video I included there for you to look at what the Black Panthers look like and what their story tells. Then we get to the final two sections. We get more into the modern world. So the first one is very interesting. It was a big story when I was a kid. It's history for you guys, but it revolves around the first video capture of a police beating of a black man. And it was in 1992 in Los Angeles. His name was Rodney King. I believe the man was caught for speeding. 5 officers will track him down, and then they will proceed to take billy clubs and just beat him senselessly. They're angry. They're taking their anger out on him. Someone from across the street happened to have one of those old school camcorders that are like this big that you have to mount on your shoulder, but they were now starting to be sold at home. He takes it out and he records it, and he sends it in. And it was huge news. It will start off some of the worst riots in American history, including the famous 92 LA riots, where there'll be a huge amount of damage done. People will be killed, and most of that comes because at the trial for those 5 officers, after that footage comes out, they'll be exonerated. They won't be put in prison. And so a lot of what had been said by the African American community for years is that they're being targeted by police and that no one's holding them accountable is kind of proven in this instance, where all of a sudden you have it on video, like everyone can see it, and they're still exonerated. So it'll set off these huge riots. And really, like, it kind of comes up to the modern day, really the last 10 years or less, where it looks at all of the captures of police brutality amongst African Americans. We all know about George Floyd, right? And all of the different kinds of tragic deaths of youths, particularly young black men by police. But George Floyd was a huge one where the officer kneeled on his neck until to try to restrain him, which is an illegal move from police forces, and he will perish. And just set off huge riots. It will also spur on the newest movement in our world called Black Lives Matters. And so with Black Lives Matters, it's kind of like another organization that's got interesting goals to try to better the African American plight in their communities. Many people have compared them to the NAACP, but in many ways they're very much distinct. So there's a video on George Floyd. There's a video on Black Lives Matters. And the question I would ask you, and it's kind of like our final question, is if you would take a look at those videos, particularly the last one, and I would like you to perhaps even take 5 minutes and go on the Black Lives Matters website and read who they are, what they're about, and then respond to this question back to me. It's a short video, 3 to 4 minutes. Do you think that Black Lives Matters is an overall positive organization or overall negative organization? In the last few years, BLM has come under massive attacks from all kinds of organizations because of their mismanagement of funds. The owner hasn't lived up to their promises to help communities and individuals, even though they said they would. Has spent millions on exuberant housing for themselves. And it's really brought the character into question. So what I want you to do is look at the website particularly, read through the details, and tell me, especially through the lens not only as someone who cares about activism and justice, but as a Christian and a Christian leader particularly, do you think this is a positive organization or not? Just give me a reason or two why. After that, we're essentially done our course. You just have to get your papers in and a reminder to let me know that you've read the material. It's been a pleasure being able to work with you guys. And of course, you can contact me, particularly in this next week as it's the last week. I will include my cell number here on this email so that if you have a question, you can text me directly, especially if there's a time crunch. Feel free to do that. But it's been a pleasure being able to work with you guys in this. Justice is an important issue, and so many times we need to do the hard work of knowing our history to be able to address those systemic problems, to step into the shoes of those who've suffered. And even if we disagree with pieces, to at least know their stories that helps us to sympathize and empathize with them. We also need to be able to look at issues not just through people's stories, but through the lens of the cross. And so it's very important when you, as Christian leaders, that one of the things we're doing is we're constantly reflecting on how do we address systemic racial issues, not out of reaction or emotion, but primarily through the lens of Jesus. And sometimes that will mean being extreme in our actions of love, grace, and ownership. And in other times, it will need discernment to look at organizations. So right off the bat, I'll tell you, I'm quite critical of the Black Lives Matters movement. I think they go way too far beyond what their mandate ought to, and I think they have mismanaged some of their resources, and I think they do promote a form of organizational um, reliability, I guess, on other actions and other organizations and other movements. They essentially say, like, hey, if you ally with Black Lives Matters, which you should, if not, if you do, you have to also align with X, Y, and Z. And I just don't see the need for that. But for them, they've placed that in. And so I'm quite critical of them. I'm a very big fan of the NAACP that have been around a while. And so, using discernment and the lens of the cross to be able to see, is this like a healthy model that brings people together? Very, very important. So, again, please let me know how I can serve you and help you in these days. Remember to take a look at your syllabus one more time. Make sure that you've got all your dates prepared. And good luck in this last week. I know it's a lot, but the end's almost in sight. So let me know how I can help you.